He is a United States congressman, and his district goes from right up against the Mississippi River all the way up through Decatur into Bloomington and into Champaign. He's nice enough to make it to this part of his district, and every time he comes in, every time he's down here, he's always welcome to come in. Congressman Rodney Davis, how are things in Washington?
Everything is actually going well. You
Yeah.
know, we've got some progress, which should be shocking to many of your listeners. Republicans and Democrats are getting things done.
Yeah, that's a good one.
hey, we do. We got a big WRDA bill passing next week, which is huge for this area because it sets the policies to update the locks and dams.
Right, okay, so that's going to work its way through?
Yeah,
Okay.
I signed the conference report last week as a member of the conference committee, and we're going to bring it up Tuesday, and I think you'll see huge bipartisan support.
Before we get to some issues, first let's talk about your campaign, because you're in a little bit of a contested campaign, aren't you?
I am. I won the closest Republican victory in the nation last election, and
Right.
this time it's going to be tough. It's a 50-50 district. There aren't too many. Nancy Pelosi.
You're like the only 50-50 district in the country.
Well, not in the country, but in this region,
Right.
of course. But if it helps me, yes, in the country.
You're the only one where you actually
the
have
country.
to. You're the only district that has to listen to actually both sides.
Well, you know, it's actually pretty liberating because I know no matter what decision I make half the district mad.
Why is it so hard to give the veterans what they need from the federal government?
It shouldn't be, and that is what floors me. I got questioned the other day in Bloomington about General Shinseki and Secretary Shinseki and why he's still there. And for the life of me, I can't understand why he's still there. This is a disaster. This is a systemic failure of leadership within the VA. This isn't a new problem of backlogs in the VA. Now you're seeing vets specifically being targeted for no treatment. Now, the one that really gets to me is the fact that they were requiring 3 positive blood stool tests to even give our veterans a colonoscopy. My wife's a 15-year survivor of colon cancer. She didn't need 3 positive stool tests to get to that colonoscopy. She needed 1, so they moved to the next diagnostic tool. Our veterans are being put out of even diagnostic services like colonoscopies that can get them the treatment they need, and that is why Eric Shinseki should not be in his office today.
But he is a major general. He's been in the highest offices. I mean, he's. You would think he would want to support the veterans. But is it really solving the problem by just getting rid of him? We've had these problems. We had, Walter Reed back, 10, 15 years ago. These troops came back to deplorable conditions. You hear about the Vietnam conditions. I mean, it seems like no matter who's in charge, no matter what happens, we have a nice soldiers' memorial in downtown St. Louis, and it's perfect for all the homeless veterans to sleep in. We all say we care about the veterans, but we just don't.
You're right, McGraw. It's going to take more than Shinseki being fired, but the fact is he came in to fix a lot of those problems. And in many cases...
I mean, are they fixable?
Yeah, any problem is fixable. The bureaucracy itself and its failure should not be an excuse for not doing something. I mean, we need to get people in there that are going to, instead of have a surge overseas with military strategy, why don't the military strategists create a surge to fix our problems in the VA? We have thousands, and if not tens of thousands of veterans that are still waiting for benefits they deserve because of a paperwork backlog. You can't tell me that you can't get people in there to look at paperwork and stamp approved or not.
It's criminal.
It seems like they're creating, though, more work for themselves. Like you're saying, 3 tests for, a colonoscopy. And it's so systemic, as you were saying. What can they do? They like have to rehire a totally different staff and completely redo the whole thing.
Well, this is indicative of the federal bureaucracy at times, where the bureaucracy decides to basically make excuses for bad work product. And as leaders, and this is where General Shinseki comes in, he has to lead. The president has to lead. Think about it in the sense of, remember a few years ago when we had passports were going to be required to go on cruises and go to Mexico and Canada. So there was a surge in passport applications, and no one thought they were going to get their passports to be able to take their vacation. The administration at the time took every White House intern and put them on passport duty and basically created an opportunity to get through that backlog on a temporary basis. That is exactly what is needed here. That is something that the president should do. That is something that Shinseki should do. And if they don't do it, they need to be held accountable.
Well, it's actually a pretty good point. We do need some type of Manhattan Project because too many soldiers are coming back with PTSD. Too many soldiers are starting to become homeless. They're starting to, they come back to jobs which aren't there for them anymore. They have to be reintegrated back into society. And what do we do as a society? We buy a green ribbon or a yellow ribbon and put it on our SUV saying we support the troops, and then we go about our business. I mean, this is a responsibility for every single one of us to make sure these guys come back, and we do whatever we can to help them out. It's just criminal. All right, immigration bill, is that going to get through the House?
I think you'll see some piecemeal approaches to immigration, which I think is the best thing we can do to help address some of the problems we have with our broken visa system. And what frustrates me, McGraw, is that you've got somebody like me who wants to find a common sense solution. There are Republicans and Democrats that want to make sure we have that secure border. They want to make sure that we fix our temporary ag worker visa program, STEM worker visa program, and address those children who were brought here through no fault of their own. And unfortunately, it's the far left and many times the far right that they don't want to solve the problem. I'll give you an example. I was in a small town of Hayworth, Illinois, and I had a pro-immigration group that's been following me around for a year and a half come in with 60 people, megaphones and cameras, and they said, we just want to talk. No. Really? Yeah. And I told him it's bullying tactics like that show me that you don't want to make progress. Because if you did, you would come in and we could discuss where we can agree and where we can disagree and what I think the realities are of actually getting policy moved forward. But instead, that group wanted to come in and scream and yell. And I told one of the gentlemen who was screaming and yelling, I'm not going to be bullied by you on this issue or any other issue. So you can go scream out there, and I'm going to continue to meet with the constituents who have decided they want to come here and talk about problems they're having with Social Security or Medicare.
Sounds like the people who were screaming and yelling about the Affordable Care Act when it was going on.
It's screaming and yelling does not help on either side.
Well, what kind of congressman are you? You wouldn't be a very good media personality. You wouldn't be a very good talking head. What kind of congressman doesn't scream and yell and rant and rave?
That's why, I'm only invited to see you, man.
That's exactly right. You've said a mouthful there. Illinois Congressman Rodney Davis, a Republican from the 13th District. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, McGraw. I appreciate it.
You got it. Always a pleasure.
Great to meet you.
7:30 here, Big 550 KTRS.